Hello and welcome to The Swing. As always, it's your boy HK, and I'm joined by my co-host, that guy Owais. As every Tuesday and Friday, we show up on SportsTrends Live, on YouTube at The Swing Podcast, on Facebook with SportsTrends, where we go live to break down everything that's going on with the league, big stories that are happening, and especially now as we enter into the crunch time of the regular season, where we're starting to see some of the wheat separate itself from the chaff. The teams that are elite really start to lay down their mark, their post, really give their intentions now in this post-trade deadline time as to how deep they're going to go once the playoffs do in fact come in. Now, we've seen a number of teams make a lot of little adjustments, little changes, little pickups here and there. Some teams, though, more so than others. And today on the Swing Podcast, we're going to spend time to focus on one of those teams that happens to be in Colorado, one of those teams that had a magical, if not underdog, run to the conference finals last year. But the Denver Nuggets, on the back of one of the leading, if not the leading MVP candidate in Nikola Jokic, are looking incredibly scary. And we're going to get a chance to talk about that. But before we do, as always, the Swing Podcast is proudly sponsored by Thrive Fantasy, which is a daily fantasy sports props app in which you can join contests on a nightly basis and very simply pick over and under who you think is going to be scoring the most points, who's going to be getting the most rebounds. And in the end, if you happen to make enough right picks, you will win legitimate money. And as a special listener of The Swing, using promo code SWING, SWING, when you make your first deposit of $20 or more, you will get your deposit matched up to 100% on up to $50 worth of deposits. So sign up and prop up today. That guy Owais, you're joining me here today. Obviously, we are talking about the Denver Nuggets before we spend a little bit of time about the Toronto Raptors as well. But tell me, just what do you think about these Nuggets? They're starting to look really scary, gotten into that top 4 position now. Are they a real deal to be able to make a deep run in the West and look for a championship this year?
You know, that's a great question. One of the things that we always mentioned about this season was how crazy the West is right now in terms of the competition, right? And you take a look at a team like Denver, which, of course, we talked about the bubble Denver, bubble Murray, and just how crazy their run was last year, coming back from 3-1 deficits and still managing to somehow pull off the series win. And that being against one of arguably the team that you thought was going to, not you, but in general, a lot of people thought would go to the finals, the LA Clippers.
Right.
So a lot of it is great coaching. A lot of it is incredible players, and none other than, this year, Jokic. Nikola Jokic has played some fantastic basketball and has just over the years gotten better and better and better. And could this be, honestly, an MVP season for him? I don't want you to talk about Nikola Jokic because I know the Joker is your guy. And, if it wasn't for HK to kind of really give high praise to him, like maybe 3-4 years ago, I mean, I would not have up until, he got really famous in the NBA for all the work he puts in. I wouldn't have known. So talk about the Joker and what he means to this Denver product and, what you think.
Man, the Joker is, first of all, absolutely everything as far as Denver is concerned. We talk about the capability of a guy to be that two-way player, but you know what? Even though Jokic can potentially not be considered an elite defender by any means, that has been a part of his game that has actually improved by leaps and bounds over the years to now a point where he is a legitimate protector to the point where he alters tons and tons of shots. And a lot of that has come, as you said, on the back of just incredible amount of work that he's put in, whether it be on his body, whether it be on his cardio, or whether it just be straight up on his game IQ. Jokic was already into the game with a huge advantage over other bigs in the league. His incredible vision was shown from his rookie year. From his rookie year, you could already see that this was a guy that not only had just incredible ability to finish around the basket while also having that ability to stretch you out. But when you got him into the post, this guy was just an absolute magician, right? You talk about the magician having the Joker here. He is the absolute Joker, the wild card that can change any game around. And in a league that has become so incredibly guard-oriented, just incredibly focused on that perimeter game, Nikola Jokic is the ultimate modern big. We talk about guys who have that capability to not only stay on the floor because of their prowess on the inside, but their prowess of getting those involved. There are very few bigs in the league that can do that. The vast majority of them are there to rebound and rim run. But the Joker is one of those where he's leading his team in assists. He's leading his team in triple doubles this year. And on top of that, he's doing that while averaging nearly 30 points a game as well. So it's just been an absolutely, I wouldn't say revelation, because Jokic has been incredible for years. It's only now I would say that he has been able to not only put that together all the way through for a season, but he's also done it on the back of a team that now has that playoff experience and has that basic altogether confidence in itself to be able to do that. Because Denver, being first of all the Mile High City, has always been a huge advantage for them, even in their lean years, even in years where the Denver Nuggets were not a great overall team. They always had a great home record because of the fact that they had just the capability to be able to take advantage of that increased altitude that was there, but they also had that capability to be able to put up points in a hurry.
Oh, yeah.
And here you're seeing Nikola Jokic just being able to do that in all of these incredible ways. And he has made himself famous with his own move. We talk about James Harden having the step back. We talk about Curry with the pull-up. We talk about Dame from deep. Jokic with the Sombor shuffle has become
shuffle. Where did you get
that? A sidestep pull-up that he does that looks absolutely ridiculous that it won't go anywhere, but he just hits them.
And he hits them with such confidence. And you look at that, like he waved the Dallas Mavericks away after he hit that. But honestly, with Jokic, one of the things you talk about, or when you think about the ideal big in this game, is someone who is quick, someone who's athletic, someone who can shoot, who can guard, pretty much do everything. And that's what they really, really want.
Look at that pass.
Surprisingly, pass, sure, even pass. But surprisingly, Jokic, who doesn't seem to be the most athletic guy, and one of the things that you notice with a lot of these, European players, or he's one from what? He's Slovenian. Is that what he is? Serbian. He's Serbian. So anyway, one of the things that you see here is that versatility. These guys they do everything. They're jack of all trades. Even if they're not athletic, they're able to use their body in a way that absolutely gives them the dominant position, the shiftiness, and it looks very awkward, but it is so effective. And he's not any of what you would imagine for a typical new game, new age type of big to look like. And now you're talking about MVP numbers, and you're talking about 30 points a game, and then averaging like almost 10 assists. How many assists is he averaging per game? Like 7, 8, something like that?
8 assists a game. He's got basically 27, 11, and 8. That's what he's sitting at right now, which is absolutely insane, just from a pure numbers perspective. But more so than that, it's the fact that he's doing it in crunch time minutes. He's doing it consistently in games that Denver have looked like they're out of, and they happen to come back. So it's just, you talk about a narrative that needs to be created to kind of do it. But for him to do that while also doing it at an efficiency that would be putting him in absolutely elite categories. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's averaging 56.5% from the field, 43% from three, and 87% from the free throw line. So it's just, like I said, there is no weak side to Jokic on the offensive side of the game. Right. He's got the array of moves that just would make any big from any time just feel absolutely proud, because you talk about bigs and their lack of skill, their lack of footwork, their lack of capability to make things happen. Jokic is the complete opposite, right? He is of the, Hakeem, David Robinson, like these guys who had the capability to be able to actually just make shots happen. And he can do that.
And and again, like he can stretch it out, like you said. He does it from the post, the back to the game. He could do anything. And honestly, it's just refreshing to see that it is just every single year getting better and better. And you're like, okay, where is it going to stop? Right? Like, where is the peak? Right? And on top of that, you look at, the moves that Denver has made in this last trade deadline. They already had a very well-established team. You have guys like Jamal Murray. You've seen Bubble Murray and what he's done in terms of the damage. Then you take a look at, some of the other guys. You have the vets like Millsap, and you have, some young guys who absolutely can turn it up at any point, such as Michael Porter Jr. And you have yourself guys that can do it on a night in and night out basis. And that kind of trust, that kind of, ability is something that, shouldn't be taken for granted just because Denver is not really that high market team like, the LAs or, the Dallas or like, I don't know, you could talk about even Phoenix this year. I don't know.
Massive. Yeah.
Yeah. You cannot count them out. And part of it is the ball movement. And we have always talked about how the mid-range game is something that's imperative, especially in close games, right? That ISO ability is imperative in playoff basketball, right? And you can get it with Jokic. You could get it with Michael Porter Jr. You could get it with Jamal Murray. And so now you think about how this team competes against those top teams, right? The question is asked, do you think, and now again, they added during the trade deadline a guy like Aaron Gordon out of nowhere. I don't think I ever expected him to ever be wearing a Denver jersey or even be in the conversation. Like, I didn't even know that Denver was looking for anyone, but they somehow sneakily picked up Aaron Gordon. And now I'm like, okay, you have another guy who can slash, score. He's had a much better back to the basket game over the last few years. Unfortunately, because of injuries, he's been out on and off, but he can shoot threes too. So you tell me, man, like, how you feeling about this product that Denver has currently up against, as for a championship run, essentially?
Yeah, look, for me, it was not only the fact that they added Aaron Gordon, but they did it in a way in which it wasn't a big loss as far as their current pieces are concerned. As important as Gary Harris had been for them in years past, with Will Barton pretty much coming in as their main guy, with PJ Dozier as their young guy really, really pushing for those minutes, and with Gary Harris's own injury concerns, it was just one of those where he had almost become a bit redundant in the lineup that they were going with. So for them to be able to do that and add that little bit of versatility on the wing for them, which is already a big part of what Denver loves to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. It's huge, especially for Aaron Gordon, who is a guy who I've said for years is incredibly underrated for what he does. In Orlando, it was just one of those where, again, they had so many pieces, they had so much talent, but whether it be injuries, whether it be coaching, whether it just be that team chemistry, they were just never able to put it together in a way that really was able to maximize Aaron Gordon's talents as well as just the talents of the rest of the squad in general. But here, obviously, we're just 3 games into Aaron Gordon's career with the Denver Nuggets and has not had, I would say, the most stunning of starts or any of that. But he has already shown that he fits in right there. He gets in right into the starting lineup as soon as he started. And he's been able to essentially keep himself on the floor because apart from the fact that he is a kind of Swiss Army knife kind of player whose court vision has actually gotten better year over year over year, and he's averaging a career high of 4 assists a game as well when he was with the Orlando Magic. So there's a lot to offer as far as his game is concerned, and especially for a team that I would say their only weakness has been in their defensive consistency overall. Because if you look at the rest of their team stats, they're actually sitting in the top 10 to top 5 of pretty much every offensive stat and even on defensive rebounding. But it's that defensive rating, those points per game, points allowed, that they're sitting at 17th in the league. That's one of those areas where they were definitely looking to make a little bit of a positive impact. And Aaron Gordon is a guy who over the years has shown himself to be a very, very solid help defender.
Oh, yeah.
Capability to be able to get those chase down blocks, those alter shots where you don't expect it because he has those kind of hops. all of those things just adds that extra little wrinkle, that extra little unexpected creativity, versatility to both sides of the game for the Denver Nuggets. And if you talk about teams that could come out of the West, I absolutely have them as one of the teams that can think of themselves as a legitimate contender in there. And to me, there aren't all that many. I've said the two LA teams, obviously. I've said the Utah Jazz are there. But other than that, I am adding the Denver Nuggets into that mix. And that, to me, is the top 4 best teams in the West. And they, on their right day, on their right kind of groove that they get into, any of those could make the finals this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the main thing. Like, you know, they've been very consistent this season, but in the playoffs, we've seen them kind of trail off and, you know, give away sizable leads and having to, you know, use that adversity and come back a series. But I mean, again, now let me just quickly make a little blurb about, you know, Aaron Gordon as well. And you mentioned the defensive side of things, right? And if that is not the go-to guy to go guard some of these bigs, or like the best player on the other floor, I don't know who else is. Aaron Gordon is someone who is an incredible figure, right? So he has size, he has mobility, and he can guard, my friends. Like, if you haven't seen, he can do it against the best of them. Maybe he's not entirely known for it, but because of that size and the quickness, like, it's almost as if it's like surprising quickness for that size. I'm really excited to see what he does. And you know, one of the things that I've noticed about a team like Denver is look at the way that Porter's cutting. They have this play where they go high post with Jokic, and they're always looking for that wing defender to just take a look at Jokic, and then the wing cuts in, and you know, they got Will Barton there. But usually, like, if you have a guy like Aaron Gordon now making those cuts, who's going to be able to stop him there? Please tell me, because he's too big, has the hops. It's literally just like, if I think about it now from a chemistry perspective, it's just going to be so beautiful to watch these backdoor cuts. And one of our guys, Tahir, he mentioned to us in one of our earlier podcasts how much he loves that back cut play. Like, look at how Barton's already like moving his legs, waiting, you know, for that outlet pass for the backdoor. Sorry, Dort. Look at this. He had to go back to the 3-point line, but you get what I'm saying. It's all in the flow of the offense. It's not like you have to add someone in and it be difficult, you know, or you're adding something new. It's just already there. And that's what we're really excited about, especially when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. So me as well, I'm going to agree with you. This is a team that will make it pretty far in the playoffs, hopefully. And I think they definitely have a contending chance. In my opinion, out of those 4 teams, the best team in that 4 teams is probably the LA Clippers. I really see them being the one that gets out of there. But I think unless the LA Lakers continue, you know, they become healthy again, I think number 2 is Denver easily. Denver's at number 2 spot. So you can see that might happen as a conference finals. Who knows? But nonetheless, the product we've seen has been great. I don't know about you guys, fans, guys that are watching the swing. Anyone want to comment on how they feel Denver's playing? You know, we've already talked about Utah this season. But anyway, is there anything else that you want to kind of mention about Denver in particular, or did you want to?
No, I mean, like I said, I think we've got a good idea on Denver here, but let's now actually shift the conversation over to the MVP conversation, which is what has been kind of that storm that's been gathering. There was people that had that early momentum and have, in many ways, whether it be injuries, whether it just be inconsistency, have kind of fallen off. Mm-hmm. We had, obviously, Joel Embiid, who was one of the leaders in the MVP race, had been, in many ways, running away with it early on in the season, but obviously, he's had his own injury concerns. He's just coming back now this weekend from a 3-week layoff as well from his injury. So hopefully he can get back and make that run, because Philly themselves are continuing to be a dominant force in the East, and we'll hopefully continue to see that. The other one has been James Harden, who has just come, first of all,
not out of nowhere.
I wouldn't say it's out of nowhere. It's James Harden. It's James Harden. It's not out of nowhere, but it's one of those situations where a Brooklyn team, which was obviously set as this like complete death machine, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and then the acquisition of James Harden. But surprisingly enough, Brooklyn has had its own concerns with availability of health, all of this, but that hasn't stopped them from continuing to be absolutely disgusting as far as their record's concerned and as far as their wins are concerned. And that's been on the back of James Harden, who's just come in there and just been like, look, you guys forgot about me in this time, right? You tried to write me off after the situation. Obviously, the Houston saga that happened is going to have its own impact, and who knows what kind of impact that'll have on final votes. But when we're talking about purely impact on the floor, James Harden has come in and has averaged a triple-double since he's come in to Brooklyn. Vast majority of these have been in wins, and they've been big wins in which he has been the driving force behind that. The most, to me, the most signature of that was the one they had against the Phoenix Suns, where in the fourth quarter, he himself went on like a 20-point run to be able to come back from a 15 to 16-point deficit to come out and win that game. And that was just like, come on, man, that's absolutely nuts.
So is it written in stone for you that, a guy like, so let's talk about those guys that you think, give me 3 names that you think are going to be in the MVP race this year.
Yeah. So the 2 that I've already talked about. So Joel Embiid, once he gets fully back into it, he's absolutely been into that level of play. James Harden, who to me actually is the leading candidate right now, but the only other person that could go ahead and at this moment take him out is going to be Nikola Jokic. And it is all going to be determined on how far Denver can continue to rise as far as their standings are concerned. At 4th right now, if they can get into a top 2 seed by the time this season is over, I could see it. I could see the narrative. I could see everything else falling into play so that Nikola Jokic does win an MVP as the first center since Tim Duncan won it back-to-back, 2002, 2003.
That is a long time ago, my friend. That is a long time ago. And that goes to show how much the league has changed. But, yeah. I mean, wouldn't you consider Giannis to be some sort of a center at some times? I mean, like, but I wouldn't consider him a traditional big, but, he does play the 5 sometimes. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, that by that same definition, Kevin Durant is listed as a power forward that plays center minutes as well, right? So, I mean, it's different. It's a very different kind of situation, a different kind of scenario in which Nikola Jokic is going about, right? He doesn't really fit into any of those molds. He fits into what would definitely be that center kind of role, because it's not like he is wowing you with his athleticism. He's wowing you with what's going on between his ears.
Absolutely. And that's something that you incredibly admire. Yeah. I'm surprised that we don't have John Wall in that conversation, right? So I'm just kidding. Absolutely. Yeah. But, some other names that I will like to mention that may not be MVP candidates by any means, but definitely should deserve a shout out. And I think Russell Westbrook is one of them, especially in the recent times. I think he's done a fantastic job. He's done a fantastic job in recent times to really try to get, the Washington, wheels running. And that's just so I can appease my boy TK. Let him know that I did talk about the Washington Wizards and John Wall today. But anyway, I think you're absolutely dead on with those 3. I think we can even put Giannis into that conversation again, as always.
I think the other honorable mention is Dame. That's in there as well. Given the fact that CJ had been injured for a period of time, Nurkic had been injured for a period of time, yet they continue to win about 70% of their games. So definitely another candidate in there as well.
One cold dude. Dame time is a thing. I'm wearing my watch in homage to his beautiful celebration, one of the coldest celebrations to ever go down in NBA history. Now we're talking about Brooklyn, like apart from some of the PR issues they've been having over the season or preseason, whatever the situation is. You got guys like Kyrie and KD, and those guys just give a difficult time to their PR. But another thing about the Brooklyn Nets that is kind of crazy is just how they're buying out guys, or just onboarding the washed up superstars onto the team and recruiting for this absolutely almost USA B team type of, team. And they just picked up 2 great players in Blake Griffin and in LaMarcus Aldridge. So I want you to talk about one, what do you think about that in terms of just a move for the NBA? But B, I want you to talk about how you think these people fit into that system already. And let's take a look at some highlights of Blake Griffin with some fighting. That game back in Detroit was a little bit chippy. And, the Detroit players took a lot of offense to just the way that Blake has been playing.
Hadn't dunked in about a year, and then he goes about in his first game and went and dropped one down hard for the Brooklyn Nets. But look, first of all, let me start off by saying that I don't totally agree with this whole idea that, this buyout is going to be, the reason why this is happening. The fact of the matter is buyouts have happened for years upon years. If they wanted to put more things into place, that's on the NBA to try to figure out that, hey, our buyout players maybe going to have to do maybe certain things to be playoff eligible. Maybe there's other financial implications for them doing that rather than just the relatively minor amount of money that they go and leave on the floor for the buyout itself. But forget all of that. From a roster construction standpoint, look, the Brooklyn Nets, we said from the beginning that the only weak spot that they had after that whole Jared Allen and Karis LeVert trade was in the middle, in that capability to be able to consistently go up against the big men of the league, the Jokic's of the league, the Embiid's of the league, and in being able to get Blake Griffin, in being able to get LaMarcus Aldridge, and also now apparently being in the run for DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, they're definitely looking to bolster that one side of it that is undoubtedly a part that's going to make them just that last little piece as far as strength is concerned. That being said, people are looking too much into the name value of it, though. The fact of the matter is both LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin are way past their prime, way past their superstar days. So this idea that, just looking at the names from top to bottom of the list is somehow enough to essentially be like, that's the reason why this team is unstoppable. No, this team was going to be unstoppable because of the big three that was there, and then the rest of the pieces that were just going to be able to fit around them. These guys are going to be asked to essentially play kind of key energy roles for them in 15, 20-minute spurts, most likely about between DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin. Those guys are going to split the center minutes and a little bit of the power forward minutes, because the fact of the matter is they do better having Jeff Green play the 4 because he stretches the floor better for them. They do better with Joe Harris taking that time between the 3 and 4. And then, of course, Kevin Durant can just kind of float around, and he's even played center for them as far as the positions are concerned. So that's where they're going to win. This is just kind of like more ammo that's been added to the gun that was already threatening to blow up the entire league. So, yes, it makes them better. Yes, it's from a PR perspective, from a brand perspective, it sounds absolutely nasty. But like our other buyout things, I think their impact is being overstated. The Brooklyn Nets are disgusting because of everything else.
Well, I mean, I agree with you in the fact that Brooklyn is disgusting with or without these guys. But I also will say is that now it gives them a lot more options in terms of how they're going to, space out the minutes of all the guys. So now you have, guys like, you can put James and 2 of those guys in at one time and give, the rest thing is fantastic. And, these guys, as much as they're past their prime, still have all the tools to go and dominate a game. So I don't know, like, even if they're only playing, let's say, like 15 minutes a game, 18 minutes a game, in those 15 to 18 minutes, the amount of potential they have to score is it's so stupid. It's so disgusting, because you add a guy like Kevin Durant or anyone else with those 3, top tier guys into that mix, because the floor is stretched out so much, that gives them so much like time and space and almost like freedom to do whatever the hell they want. And that's the trouble that I see here, because I'm like, from a perspective of the game itself, I'm like, where is the weakness? Because at this point now, Aldridge, like, you're telling me that you have like a big that can play a mid-range game? That spaces the floor out for everyone. And then you have Blake Griffin, who can pretty much come in, do his dunks, flashy, piss off some other guys, get some technical fouls from the other team, and then dunk on them. or score on them. Like, it's so dumb, man. And I'm actually really disappointed in the way that has ended up turning out. But also from a pure basketball perspective, you're like, holy crap, if there was a Monstars that has ever been created in an NBA team, it is this. This is the almost pinnacle of absolute basketball on paper dominance. Okay.
I mean, I'd still say the KD Warriors would be the most dominant team in terms of, first of all, the primes of these guys. Remember, you had 4 guys in their absolute prime going up, and then you had everything else. But the Brooklyn Nets themselves are still just absolutely.
Clay cannot be a superstar on his own. He can't be an all-star on his own. And I don't think that Draymond, without Curry and all these guys, can be as effective, because they just, those 3 create each other into that beautiful, beautiful Golden State Warriors product that we've seen. But each one of these other guys were able to single-handedly do that for years. Single-handedly. Blake Griffin is someone, even if you can argue like, oh, he's, with the, Chris Paul made him or this or that. But no, if he wanted to dominate a game, who's guarding him? Please tell me, right? Years ago, but even if years ago, I'm just saying, specifically, this guy could be the head, he can lead a team. He could be the main superstar of a team. And Klay Thompson, I don't think he'd be that guy. Then you talk about
here's the thing, though.
You can do the same thing.
My entire problem with that sort of thinking is because of the fact that at the time they're on this team, they're not going to be that guy. Clay is that guy, and I disagree that he wouldn't be a superstar even on his own. He just gets unlocked to another level with the fact that he can play the way he does on Golden State and be one of the greatest.
On Golden State, it's
not just about on Golden State.
Listen, if you have a team that, let's say, for example, you put him on a team I don't know, which team has the worst assist ratios of this season? People that don't space out the floor or pass the ball around, that guy. What's he gonna do?
Clay would be fine.
Live in the mid-range game and this and that. He has to evolve his game completely, and he's gonna be a lot more tired than the catch and shoot.
He's not just the catch and shoot, though. That's where I think people are starting to
really. He's not just the catch and shoot, but you see some of the games that he's played. If he becomes like that, a highlight, okay, yeah, he has to be the guy that we have to guard. I mean, I don't think it's that difficult. I mean, I'm not saying.
Well, anyways, I will agree to disagree on that side of it. But Brooklyn, as far as their roster makeup is concerned, absolutely at this point, you would say is without when healthy, a direct weakness. And the way it's all set up, it would be just an incredible shock, disappointment if they didn't actually go all the way, 100%. The way that's the other side of this entire buyout situation and everything else that's gone. You have pretty much made it that you are the ultimate championship or bust scenario. You're not looking to get set up for a future. You're not looking to get set up for any of that. Right now, it's about getting them rings. And a couple of guys on that team, James Harden especially, is one of those guys who are absolutely just chomping at the bit for that opportunity, because for reasons that are there of Golden State Warriors teams and everything else that's prevented that from happening, this is now their time to finally stamp kind of that last mark on their legacy so that they can at least be complete from that perspective and then kind of go from there and see what they want to do. But this is like the monkey off their back that they need to get off, especially for a player like James Harden, who, all the playoff narratives that are against him, I believe they're absolutely false. It is just one of those where, anyways, that's a whole different conversation. But a huge playoff narrative is against him, and he needs this to be able to do it. So
look, dude, it's a catch-20. Is it called the catch-22? Because if he wins, they'll be like, yeah, because you stacked up your team. Okay. If he loses, they'll be like, haha, it's because,
that's fine. But in the end, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, people aren't going to look at that. Do you go back and look at those Miami teams now? And do you talk about the fact that, they stacked their deck, all of that? Yes, the Dallas Mavericks.
Of course you do.
No, you don't.
You do.
You don't go.
You enjoy it still. You're still going to be like, yeah, I loved the fact that happened or whatever. Everybody has
2008 Boston Celtics. Do you go back and tell them that wasn't a real championship? All of that is absolute water under the bridge. The fact of the matter is, the way things are set now, I don't agree with it, but the fact of the matter is you are judged by your capability to be able to get that ring on your finger. And
we'll leave it up to you guys. You guys tell us how you feel about this. Do you think that over time, if they win the championship, if it had an asterisk on this, would it be starred as if, the same way they said the same thing about the Toronto Raptors when Golden State wasn't healthy? For me, I'm always going to say a champion's a champion. It's not easy to get there. A lot of things happen during the playoff time. So I agree with you. But just for the purpose of discussion, I want to know what you guys think. But apart from that, we just want to quickly mention the Toronto Raptors had a record high win finally against a G League team called the Golden State Warriors without Draymond and Curry. And Raptors fans, you should be totally excited about the historic not about the historic lead, but the fact that we won. It's insane. It is absolutely insane. Happy birthday, Pascal Siakam. You played.
Yes, sir.
I did see that. Now do it against an actually good team, okay? And as for the rest of you Raptors, I wanted to mention, I thought Malachi Flynn had a fantastic game. I really thought he did justice to the pick and roll like his father has been saying, and actually created some great shots for himself. But apart from that, Raptors, we're really happy that you pulled one out today. And in that fashion, it really, really, really made us.
Like, they needed it for some confidence, first of all. And secondly, regardless of who is on the other end of the floor, look, we just lost to the G League Oklahoma City Thunder. So it was 100% one of those situations where you just needed something to be able to get it. Just didn't take their foot off the gas. Gary Trent, who ended up with a plus 54 for this game, which is the second highest in NBA history behind, this is like a trivia question, Luke Richard Mbamute, who has a plus 56. But Gary Trent with a plus 54, Pascal Siakam with a plus 49, who is the third highest plus minus in NBA history. So
take that to the books. He spun his way there, ladies and gentlemen. He Beybladed his way into that plus 49, okay?
Whatever it was a great night for him, and he definitely celebrated his birthday, showed out, season high 36 points for him. And look, forget about it, whatever the game is, whatever the situation is. The Toronto Raptors needed one to be able to get themselves, feeling good about themselves, because I would say it's just been such a tough season. It's been such a tough little point. You need these little victories to get yourself going. And now they get a 2-day rest before they get to go and face the Washington Wizards. So that is going to be one of those where, as I said, this little stretch of the season is going to determine whether the Raptors are a playoff team, whether they are going straight to the bottom. All of these things are pretty much determined in this little stretch of teams that are going to be below 500 and, weaker squads. So if the Raptors can do what we expect them to do what they should hopefully be capable of doing, then maybe we can get a few more good nights out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I want to shout out, Freddie. I hope he'll, he had a hip flexor injury, I believe, during the game. So hopefully that's not too serious. And Rodney Hood as well, I think injured his shin or his hip or something like that in the past few games. And of course, that's something we just did not want to see for Rodney. But hey, it is something that's a trend. But ultimately, I want to shout out the Raptors for the ball movement. Without Freddie, I'll be honest with you, the ball movement looks seamless. So shout out to Freddie not being on the court today.
Come on, man.
As much as I love Freddie, believe me, I love Freddie, but that ball movement is something that is absolutely going to help us, right? So develop that, guys. Freddie, if he's out for a little bit, please just facilitate the ball like you did today. Pascal, continue being aggressive. And, if we can get Gary Trent in that catch and shoot situation or doing those floaters that, we have come
off the dribble, he's nasty too. I'm telling you, Gary Trent is going to be huge.
Listen, how do you penetrate a zone? A lot of these teams have been playing a lot of great zone defense on us. And now if we have Gary Trent going in and cutting like that and dropping those floaters down the middle like that, baby, we ready for the future. For the future, not this season, for the future. But
no doubt.
Anyway.
But with that in mind, we are coming to the end of another episode of The Swing. As always, thanks very much to SportsTrends for providing us the platform to be able to go live on this, live on not only our own YouTube channel, but on SportsTrends on Facebook. So make sure to follow them. All the information is always on the ticker at the bottom. So definitely keep track of that. Follow us on Instagram at the Swing Podcast, where we are always looking to go live post games to get Owais' angry reactions, my frustrated reactions.
Oh, by the way, we figured out the challenge for HK.
Yeah.
What he has to do, and that is actually to clean shave.
Ah, is that what it is?
It's that. So, ladies and gentlemen, next time you see HK, he's going to be completely clean shaven. And that is the challenge. He has to record himself.
Oh, man.
Can't wait to see it. Cannot wait.
I absolutely can wait as long as I need to. But yes, all right. I guess that's what it's going to be. I'm going to look like I'm 12 again. But HK always does what is required for the fans. But until then, and until next Tuesday, where we go live again on the Swing Podcast, we will see you then. This was HK. That is that guy Owais, and we will see you next time.